Before the drums of war echoed across the Mediterranean, before elephants marched through snow, before Rome trembled and Carthage bled, there was a moment, a fragile flickering moment, when peace still existed. But peace never lasts. Two great powers stood on opposite sides of the Mediterranean, staring each other down across the waves. Rome seemed unstoppable. Carthage, humiliated but far from broken. The First Punic War had ended, but the bitterness it created did not. From that simmering hatred, a storm began to form. The storm is the Second Punic War. After the First Punic War, Carthage was in an atrocious state. They had a mercenary war, Rome took Sardinia and Corsica and had to pay Rome a huge amount of money. It wasn't looking good for Carthage, but then came Hamilcar Barca, a war hero in the late part of the First Punic War. Hamilcar takes his army and his 9-year-old son to Spain and create a new life, wealthy and militarized Carthaginian empire. And always at his side was his young son. According to legend, Hamilcar made Hannibal swear an oath at the altar, and he would never be a friend to Rome. But Hamilcar died in battle, and command passed down to his son-in-law Hasdrubal the Fair. Hasdrubal expanded the Spanish Empire even further, and signed a treaty with Rome. Carthage would not cross the Ebro River, and in 221 BC, Hasdrubal was assassinated and the army immediately chose Hannibal, just 26 years old, as their new commander. Rome watched nervously. Hannibal was young and ambitious, and south of the Ebro River was a city called Saguntum, technically outside Roman territory, but an ally of Rome. Saguntum began provoking nearby tribes under Hannibal's control. Hannibal warned them to stop, which they didn't, so Hannibal besieged the city. Rome demanded he stop. Hannibal ignored them. After 8 months, Saguntum fell. Rome sent an ultimatum to Carthage: surrender Hannibal or face war. The Carthaginian Senate refused, and thus began the Second Punic War. In the spring of 218 BC, Hannibal gathered his army and marched north. He crossed the Ebro, fought through hostile tribes and pushed over the Pyrenees. He reached the Rhone River, where a Roman army under Publius Cornelius Scipio had just landed. Hannibal didn't want to fight yet, so he outmaneuvered the Romans and vanished into the wilderness. Rome had no idea where he went, but Hannibal knew exactly where he was going. He was going to do something no one thought was possible: cross the Alps. Hannibal didn't just march into the Alps. He marched into a blender made of ice, cliffs, and angry tribes. The moment his army entered the foothills, the problems began. The first major tribe Hannibal encountered were the Allobroges, living in the valleys near the Rhone. At first, they pretended to be friendly, offering guides, supplies, even safe passage. But the second Hannibal's army began climbing the narrow mountain paths, they attacked from the ridges above. Boulders came crushing down, arrows rained from the cliffs, warriors charged from the hidden paths. Hannibal had to fight uphill in snow while trying to stop the elephants from panicking. It was absolutely chaos. Higher up, the Centurions tried a different tactic. They welcomed Hannibal, offered food and promised safe passage through the worst parts of the mountains. Hannibal, being Hannibal, didn't trust them, but he needed the supplies. Sure enough, the moment the army entered the narrow gorge, the Centurions attacked from both sides. The pass was so tight that men couldn't even raise their shields properly. Horses slipped, pack animals fell into ravines, elephants tried to turn around and nearly crashed into their own soldiers. It was one of the most dangerous moments of the entire crossing. These weren't big battles, they were constant, exhausting skirmishes that drained morale and supplies. More pack animals fell, more supplies were lost, more tribes attacked. By the time Hannibal reached the plains of northern Italy, he had lost nearly half of his army. But the survivors, they were hardened veterans. They were ready for war. Rome finally understood the scale of the disaster. Hannibal had crossed the Alps and invaded Italy, and he wasn't waiting for Rome to react. He moved like a storm, fast and unpredictable. He gathered support from Gallic tribes to take on a war with Rome on their home soil. The first clash came near Ticinus River. It wasn't a full battle, more like a violent handshake, but it revealed everything. Rome was not prepared. Hannibal's Numidian cavalry swarmed the Roman horsemen, wounded the consul Publius Cornelius Scipio, and forced the Romans to retreat. A small engagement, but a loud message. Hannibal was not an ordinary enemy. Rome responded by sending another army under Sempronius Longus, a man that only cared about Roman glory. Hannibal knew this, so he set up a trap, and thousands of Romans were killed or captured. Hannibal had won his second victory in Italy, but he wasn't done. In 217 BC, Hannibal marched south, burning Roman supply lines and gathering new allies. The new Roman consul, Gaius Flaminius, chased him recklessly, exactly what Hannibal wanted. Hannibal led him along the shore of Lake Trasimene. Flaminius fell into Hannibal's trap, and in result, Flaminius was killed. His army was annihilated. Rome was in shock. Panic spread through the city. People feared Hannibal would march on Rome itself. Someone needed to help Rome in these dire times. But who would step up?